All right. So it looks like Hasbro has a new Snake Eyes game that's going to be coming out. It's in development right now. So we're going to go ahead and go over this article right here. So, new Hasbro job listing reveals new details on its upcoming G.I. Joe game starring Snake Eyes. So the actual job listings and everything like that is pretty much at the end of the article. So we'll see that at the very end. But we'll just go over the article and what it has to talk about. The article itself pretty much just talks about the game and what to be expected. So we'll go ahead and get into it. So a job listing on Hasbro's website provided new details on the upcoming G.I. Joe game starring Snake Eyes, being developed by North Carolina-based studio Atomic Arcade. And his little cover art for Snake Eyes, I think it looks badass. Honestly, I think Snake Eyes is a really cool character, and it was funny because I actually had seen some people had where I was watching I believe it was a live stream, and some people were talking about G.I. Joe. And one of the people had mentioned that the reason that Snake Eyes had gotten created was just because the creators that were doing the like selling the toys and everything like that, doing those types of things, they just wanted to get all of these different characters and just kind of with black or well I'm kind of messing it up. So pretty much what they wanted to do is they wanted a character that was just flat black. So pretty much it would be easy to create, easy, wouldn't be like too much of a design. And so that's what they had to sell it. And then once they started selling it, that's when they started kind of giving the backstory behind it, who the character was, what he was about, and all that type of stuff. So that kind of is what helped create Snake Eyes into the character that we know him as today. So, Batman Arkham producer Ames Kirshen leads the studio as he revealed back in March of 2022 that he had joined Hasbro to develop a game focused on G.I. Joe back in March of 2022. It's written weird. He informed Game Industry, "I always had this great desire to tackle GI Joe and to take a crack at making an amazing game with the IP because I think there's a lot of potential there. So long story short, we decided to build a studio to support the franchise to support that game." That's honestly badass, if you ask me. He also informed the outlet that the game would be focused on Snake Eyes, as he described it as a much more edgy, contemporary, mature take on G.I. Joe to really suit what he felt we needed to have with this IP and game resonate with the modern consumer. So again, the cover art looking badass. I always think of the scene too from the GI Joe movie because that's mainly what my introduction to the whole series franchise was the movies. Even though the first one was like it's terrible. I can consider that like a guilty pleasure. That was one of those movies. Me and I remember my cousin back in the day. We would sit down and watch it and just laugh at all the stupid stuff from it because it was such a cheesy version of the characters and everything like that. But the one character that was like still a badass was Snake Eyes. And I always go back to the scene where they're in like a some security vault or whatever, and they can't like actually step because if they do, they'll set off the alarm. So they mentioned that there's only in order to step on the ground, it has to be smaller than I believe they say like a quarter or something like that. So then you follow up with the scene where after that, where Snake Eyes is literally doing a handstand, holding two swords, while the tips of the swords are touching the ground and keeping him. Well, he's keeping his body upright. I honestly that I think that's like one of the few things I actually remember from that movie, completely. So while Kirsch's comments about providing a contemporary take might give some readers pause, and it gives me pause, Kirschen elaborates while discussing how he had to convince Hasbro executives to greenlight the game. He shared it was a process to getting them comfortable with the direction we wanted to go with, that this is the type of content that the market is looking for, which definitely I would consider that it is. That people grew up with the IP, and those who grew up with the IP back in the day of real American heroes as it peaks in the 80s and 90s are now fathers and uncles, and these are the mass consumers of the AAA consoles and PC platform, and they want content that grows with them, he explained, which is true, which is very true, because that is one of the things I heard. Some people were talking about how it feels like we're in an era for a lot of like old man type of movies that start coming out, like Old Man Blade and stuff like that, where they can, because we grew with these characters and all that type of stuff. So it would be cool to actually see Snake Eyes kind of grow with its audience in that sense. So Kirsten also seemed to imply that he will be telling the an original Snake Eyes story with the game. If you look at what the evolution has been in the late PS3 era moving into PS4, It's been to take these ideas and to craft unique experiences, taking some of the best elements of the underlying IP from the source material, but creating a version specifically for the video game market and video game consumer, as opposed to taking someone else's version of the character and trying to adapt it to the medium when that wasn't originally created for that medium from the get-go, which is really smart, pretty much, to kind of create it in its own way so that it does adapt to whatever property you're going to try to do it through, whether that be like films or video games. So instead of just trying to take like a comic book version of it and then just put that in a video game, they're trying to actually create the character from the ground up, have it still be the same character, but have it be within this world that they're going to create and that they're going to adapt themselves. So I think that's pretty cool. So to make the point, to make his point, he compared his work on the Arkham series to Christopher Nolan's Batman films. At the height of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, rather than doing a game based on that Batman, working with Rocksteady, we crafted our own version of Batman that was specifically built from the ground up to be amazing. Cutting edge, high quality Batman game that was very much inspired by other mediums or media and the core canon of Batman, but was its own unique, fresh take to made for gamers from the ground up. Based on the huge success of that became the model of us across all the portfolios at DC, he added. Furthermore, Kirshen made it a point that while he will seemingly be crafting an original story, he still wants to respect the G.I. Joe. He still wants to respect the G.I. Joe. He explained there are things every creator needs to do for this medium. They're creating that sometimes. There are things every creator needs to do for the medium they're creating that sometimes will need to push the boundaries of some of the rules and guidelines of that IP. As long as you're still being very respectful to the underlying IP and respecting the essence of it in a macro level as well as a micro level as well as a macro level world building level. Excuse me. So again, another badass cover art with Snake Eyes jumping out of a window while shooting the Uzi. That's awesome. Now, a new job listing for a senior world level designer shares some new details about the game. It notes that the game will be a multi-platform AAA game, a bold, contemporary new take on the G.I. Joe universe starring a legendary character, Snake Eyes. Specifically, the job listing implies that the game will be a mix of open world as well as closed level mechanics, likely similar to Batman Arkham City. It states that the candidate will bring passion for both the world and the linear level design. It also wants the candidate to bring a minimum of 4 to 6 years game development experience and significant contribution to multiple AAA titles as well as level design, world building. In a section labeled extra credit, it also notes that the idea candidate will have experience working on open world and or sandbox projects. And then this is pretty much just the listings for the designer that they're looking for. So I think this is awesome. I think it's really cool that they're going to be designing a game in the Arkham style, especially because, again, Snake Eyes is such a badass character. So if they are to be able to do it in the Arkham style and, give it the fighting style as well as the story behind it, if they're going to do it originally, I think it's going to be awesome, especially considering that the individual Kirshen, he sounds like he's passionate about this. Like it's something he wanted to do, especially when you go back to stating how they created the game, the studio. Yeah, so we decided to build a studio, support that franchise, to support that game. I think that's fucking cool. So I'm pretty sure that this is, going to be something that they're passionate about, that they're going to show a lot of love to. So that's going to definitely be something that the original fans are going to love and appreciate, as well as the people like myself who are kind of considered like, like the, just about like a basic fan. It could be something that we can get into, and then you never know, it can actually bring more people into the G.I. Joe franchise itself. So I think that's awesome. I think that's something to look forward to, and most likely, if they do come out with any type of trailer, it probably won't be for a while, but if they do, it's definitely something to keep an eye out for and to look ahead to. So those are my thoughts on that. I think it's cool. Thank you guys for watching. If you stayed this long, if you can like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And so yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.